Good morning. This is Breaking Burnout for Nurses. I'm Bonnie Kitahata, your host. And today I have for my guest, Michael Roth. He is a transformational trauma coach. So, my first question, Michael, is what exactly is a transformational coach?
Okay,
Transformational trauma coach.
right. Great question. So I'm certified as a holistic life coach and an addiction recovery coach, specifically sex and love addiction and gambling. And what I found in working with people that have had addictions, underlying the addiction, probably over 90% had traumas in their life, early traumas, compounded traumas. So I began to have better results in working with trauma. And then I went out and got certified as a trauma recovery coach.
So, this podcast, I focus mostly on nurses, and just listening to the fact that it's trauma, it can affect so many nurses. So, this is right up the alley for burning out nurses and things that they're going through in their life. So, tell me a story about how you got into this.
So imagine with me, it's 25 years ago, actually 40 years ago. I'm at a gym in Anaheim, California. And my wife at the time came walking in, which was very rare. And she came over to me and she had a look. I knew immediately something was up. And she said to me, Michael, I've got some bad news for you. They found your father unconscious in a park in Forest Hills, New York. 30 days later, he passed away. I'm convinced that he was assaulted due to a gambling addiction. I have no proof, but enough proof to know that was it, and then decided I was going to get into that field, help people with addictions and losing my dad. So that's how I got into it. And that was 40 years ago.
Okay, so it kind of started with addiction, gambling addiction. Can you also help people with other types of addictions?
I can. I have an affinity for process addictions. Process addictions are addictions that are like gambling, shopping, sex and love, that type of thing, versus a
Mhm.
chemical addiction like drugs and alcohol. I do work with that, but I have a real, like I said, an affinity for process addictions. The same brain
Mhm.
chemistry happens, only it's more behavioral, if that makes sense.
Okay, for an example, shopping addiction, somebody who just is always going shopping and buying things that they
Well, the
don't
way it is
necessarily
now,
need.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. The way it is now is not so much like going to Nordstrom's and Macy's and things like that. Amazon shopping online is
Hmm.
ridiculous in terms of,
Mhm.
and that's how a lot of people are dealing with their stress. It's a way to distract and give somebody momentary relief from their pain.
I think so. I think a lot of people went wild with Amazon and online shopping during the COVID, right?
Well, yes, a
Mhm.
lot of the trauma that I've been seeing in the last 4 years has resulted from at the time of COVID, the isolation, on and on and on. So yes, that's when a lot of the identity theft started to happen, which I'm going to get into at another time. But
Mhm.
yes, definitely the COVID.
Okay, so what are some other things? So you do addiction. Do you do habits like smoking habits or things
I
like that?
can,
Or
but it's not something that I promote. It's not.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm more interested in going deeper. Now, you mentioned, you're all about burnout for nurses.
Mhm.
When I started out before I went to school, I worked as a hemodialysis technician, and I did that for years, helping people hook up to dialysis machines. So I know the nursing field pretty well. And
Mhm.
as you know, being a nurse, it could be very, very stressful,
Mhm.
especially in the dialysis world where people are going to die. I mean, we're all going to die, but
Mhm.
so you get attached to them and you're serving them and all that. And then the next thing you know, their chair is empty and somebody else is in their chair. And then, of course, the orders and carrying the orders and the stress from the doctors. I mean, it goes on and on. So there's a lot of stress and burnout that I've witnessed in the nursing industry field.
So tell me a little bit about how somebody who feels they need help from you, what would they do to first contact you? And then what steps would you take to help them?
Yeah, so I have a phone number, I have a website, so people would communicate with me that way. And what makes what I do unique is that I approach recovery and healing stress and trauma with the mind-body connection. So what do I mean by that? If I went up to somebody and said, do you want to get well or do you want to lose weight? That's a better one. Do you want to lose weight? If somebody's
Mhm.
overweight,
Mhm.
everyone will say 90%, yes, of course. Well,
Mhm.
what I do is I use muscle response testing when I'm in person. So I'll take a person's arm, they'll hold it strong, they'll make a statement, I want to lose weight or I want to heal the trauma. And if their arm stays strong or congruent, then they're actually aligned with the statement. However, because it's unconscious, somebody might say, I want to lose weight, and their arm will go weak. That tells me that they have a block to what they're wanting, to their healing, to their transformation. So that is what I do to help get into the mind-body connection. And when I work with Zoom or FaceTime, I use the neck. By rotating the neck to the right and left, normally it's even. And then when somebody says something that they're not aligned with, or if there's what I call a charge, one side will tense up. And then I know we have to do some work. Does that make sense?
Well, it sounds very otherworldly a little bit to me. So how do you tell when you do these testing and either their arm resists or doesn't resist? How do you find out if it's actually helping what their trauma is or what their problem is?
That's a great question. So once the trauma is, how do I want to say it? Once they're aware of it and they're thinking about it and their arm goes down, I'll ask them some questions. Once they have the memory, I have them move their eyes in many directions. It's called eye movement integration, EMI. And by doing that, by moving the eyes in the different directions, it accesses different parts of the brain: visual, auditory, kinesthetic. And when a person is thinking about the trauma or the person or the situation, and then the eyes are done, I recheck the muscle test of the arm or the neck, and it clears, meaning it gets strong rather than weak. It might sound a little woo-woo, and I've been doing it so long, and it works. It's a great feedback mechanism. I mean, it's not like an exact science type thing, but it definitely gives feedback.
Okay, so I was kind of mean to say it that way
Oh, that's
because Michael, I have to tell everybody, Michael has been helping me, and it really isn't woo-woo. It really is transformational. And he's been helping me for, let's see, a little bit over a month now. And it's really works and it's amazing. So, of course, that's why I have to have Michael share his information with you. Yeah, I'm sorry. I kind of threw that on you, Michael. So it all this really does work. Sometimes it's hard to really explain it until you have it done yourself. So, but
yeah.
believe me, it really has helped me so much. So we're going to have Michael's information on my website at www.breakingburnout.com. And we'll have his picture so you can see what he looks like. And we'll have his contact information and also his social media contacts. So if you need to get a hold of him, then believe me, he can help you out. So you can help somebody online if they're not, like if they're in New York and you're in California. Tell us a little bit about working with you online.
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, I work over Zoom, and
Mhm.
FaceTime seems to be the two modalities. And just
Okay.
like I can see you and you can see me, instead
Mhm.
of muscle testing you, I have you turn your neck to the right and
Mhm.
left. Let's say you think about somebody, like if you were divorced, your ex-husband, your ex-wife, and if it was not an amicable split up, if you think about the person, when you turn, it'll get stuck on one side. And then I just do the work. I have the person or the client move their eyes in different directions while they're thinking about the event. And then I ask specific questions about that. And it's very effective. It's a very deep clear.
Thank you so much, Michael. You know,
Sure.
you did mention something about getting scammed and taken advantage of. So if you don't mind, I would like to invite you back on another podcast episode to dive deeper into that, because it seems to be just kind of so prevalent right now.
It's
Everybody's trying to taking over our society, which is, it's really disgusting. So anyway, I would like to invite you back on another episode.
Absolutely,
to
I would
talk
love that.
about that. Yeah. All right. Well, time goes flying by, doesn't it? So anyway, again, I'm Bonnie Kitahata. I'm your host, and Michael Roth was our guest today. So we will be getting together soon again to talk more about some other topics that Michael is expert on. All right. Well, thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you, Bonnie. Bye.
Bye.